Cybersecurity Unveiled. What do small and medium-sized businesses need to know to stay safe? Good morning. My name is Simon Levy. I am a cybersecurity researcher at the culmination of my 12-week bootcamp with the Institute of Data and Auckland University of Technology. My background is diverse and a long story. The summation of it is that I grew up moving countries every 3 to 4 years because of my father's work. I was born in New Zealand and lived in Australia, South Korea, and the United States. A critical part of my story is having spent the last year in Nairobi with my wife and her family. I graduated from undergrad with a BA in technical theater and from graduate school with my MFA in technical direction. I had a 20-year career in the United States as a technical director. These experiences have enabled me to gain a unique global perspective on issues and an appreciation for diverse cultures and experiences. My team leadership, critical thinking, and problem solving gained from my theater career enabled me to solve critical problems calmly and while under immense pressure. My theater career has also enabled me to communicate quickly and effectively with stakeholders within and without the organization in both technical and non-technical language. Small and medium-sized businesses, SMBs, are the most likely to need a strong cybersecurity posture and good cyber hygiene, but they are the least likely to implement one. The statistics about small and medium-sized businesses are alarming. Here are a few just to get us started. 46% of all cyber attacks are targeted at SMBs, according to the 2021 Verizon Data Breach Report. In 2021, 82% of ransomware attacks were against companies with less than 1,000 employees. Even more alarming, 37% of those attacks were on companies with less than 100 employees. Employees of small and medium-sized businesses experience 350% more social engineering attacks than larger businesses. In 2020, there were over 700,000 attacks against small and medium-sized businesses, totaling more than $2.8 billion. 95% of cybersecurity incidents at SMBs cost between $826 and $653,587. My eyes are glazing over with the statistics, so I'll stop, but we get the idea. According to Fortinet, several small business cyber attack examples have shown that hackers target SMBs because they often use free cybersecurity tools designed to protect consumers instead of businesses. SMBs are a target for hackers because they often store the exact same types of data that larger businesses do, but without the knowledge and security. It is a tough job to ask someone to spend money on something when they are struggling just to pay their employees and keep their heads above water. It is my firm belief that the very first place to start is to raise the baseline of understanding about why cybersecurity is a critical component of any SMB business model. My approach to this is to provide proactive education tailored specifically to each unique business that chooses to engage with me. I will present the information in a way that is informative, engaging, and approachable to non-technical people. This information needs to be presented in a way that is non-combative and alarmative, and without finger-pointing or shaming. It is my belief that with access to the relevant information about why cyber awareness and having a good, solid cybersecurity posture within SMBs, if presented in a manner that connects personally and humbly with the business stakeholders, will begin to positively raise the baseline awareness of SMBs that engage with me. SMBs are often struggling to maintain solvency while providing their service, which is something that they are hugely passionate about. Asking them to spend money on something that they don't perceive to be a problem that affects them is a big ask and needs to be approached delicately. My approach to helping SMBs establish a baseline cybersecurity posture is to engage with stakeholders and leadership in a calm, humble, and supportive manner. I believe that it is essential to recognize that cybersecurity is not the focus of these businesses and likely won't be. My focus would be to help leadership understand how lack of security posture leaves their business open to threat actors and could potentially expose the personally identifiable information, PII, of their customers. I believe that expecting an SMB to be fully compliant with a laundry list of requirements and telling them that they need to outlay large sums of money to manage service providers MSPs, is unlikely. Understanding that full cybersecurity compliance is unlikely, the next step is to focus on what I believe to be the critical areas that a business should implement security in, and to help the SMB to understand the following items. What areas need to be strengthened, why these areas need to be strengthened, and the risk if they are left unsecured. It is a difficult task to evaluate all the different vulnerabilities within information security and prioritize them, particularly when trying to focus the attention of a small organization to their most critical vulnerabilities. The following 6 items are, in my belief, the most crucial and overlooked areas for an SMB to harden. It is my belief that the most critical area for everyone within the organization to have a strong and unique password. The business should have a policy dictating password strength. SMBs should implement and understand the policy of zero trust and why it is important. Segmenting the network into standalone parts will reduce the risk of lateral movement by bad actors. Organizations should have backups of their data and infrastructure that are consistent with the 3-2-1 method, and institute a policy for updating. Strong firewall and antivirus software needs to be implemented, updated, and maintained. This one was the hardest of the 6 items to place. I decided to place it last because without the other 5 facets in place, any data stored is vulnerable. But maybe that is an argument for being placed in the first position. By putting these 6 practices into place, an SMB that chooses to do so will have established a security posture that has defense in depth, a layered, multi-factor approach to security. The most critical place to start with managing cyber hygiene is for SMBs to understand the criticality of maintaining strong and unique passwords. I would say that at this point in time, everyone knows that they need to be using complex passwords for everything. If I took a survey of the 4 people in my household, all of them adults, with the knowledge that they should have strong, complex passwords, the results would show that 75% of them are using weak passwords. CertNZ says to make your password long and strong. They suggest that using 4 random words is a strong password. CertNZ states that a long passphrase is just as strong as a long string of numbers, letters, and symbols. I prefer to use a random password generator to come up with random strings because it circumvents the inclination people have to use phrases that are too closely related to themselves or their family. Unique passwords are just as important to information security as complex passwords. The reason for the importance of unique passwords is the number of data breaches that occur and the likelihood that information pointing to a person or business's accounts is already available, either just flat out on the dark web or available for purchase. I think that it is important for SMBs to understand the ease with which password and username data is available. In 2009, there was a data breach of the RockU social website that resulted in the leaking of over 14 million usernames and passwords. This information is readily available to bad actors that want to exploit your systems. Everyone should be implementing a unique password and username for each of their accounts. According to NordLayer, 2FA is a multi-factor authentication method that requires exactly 2 authentication factors. Multi-factor authentication, compared with 2-factor authentication, has an additional dimension of authentication, requiring at least 2 or more authentication factors, 2, 3, or even more. Note that 2FA is MFA, but MFA cannot be considered to be 2FA. MFA is better because it adds an extra layer of protection into the access management. Password managers is a controversial topic. There is a valid argument to be had that maintaining all of your passwords in one central location allows for a single point of failure for bad actors to access your information. While I believe this to be true, it is my belief that the benefits of maintaining strong, complex, and unique passwords and usernames for all of your accounts outweighs the risk. I believe that a password management app will make it far more likely for people to embrace using complex and long passwords. In my research, I have seen the theory of forcing users to update their passwords regularly debated. I agree that updating passwords regularly is not the greatest idea. Making it a requirement for users to update their passwords regularly will encourage the adoption of weak password practices, in my view. The next area to cover is an uncomfortable one, I think particularly for small businesses. Small businesses are often family affairs, run as a tight-knit community where everyone feels a sense of ownership and pride. When talking about zero trust to SMBs, I believe it to be very important to differentiate the fact that it isn't about mistrust of employees, but rather about verifying the integrity of devices, network connections, and keeping sensitive data restricted and safe. Zero trust is built upon the principle that all entities are untrusted by default, and that it is not until their login, network, and device are verified they are granted access. This helps SMBs avoid unauthorized access, lateral movement by threat actors, phishing attacks, and data exfiltration. Unauthorized access is prevented due to verification of login. Lateral movement is prevented due to controlled access, and phishing attacks are also prevented or lessened because of an email compromise would not necessarily grant access to sensitive data areas of the network. Least privileged access is a policy of granting each user access to only the minimum number of systems and data that is required to be able to fulfill their role. It limits the access of individuals to sensitive information that they don't need to access. In the case of a phishing attack or other compromise, it limits the scope of damage and systems that a threat actor can accomplish. A key factor to helping SMBs create a security posture that has an effective baseline is to highlight the critical importance of segmenting their networks. Segmenting an SMB's networks drastically increases their security posture and hygiene because it makes it increasingly more complicated and complex for a threat actor to gain persistence in the network and establish lateral movement. Network segmentation, paired with zero trust, means that even if a compromise of the network occurs, the area that is exposed is contained and the ability for the threat actor to move throughout the network is controlled. Segmenting an SMB's network helps add increased security hygiene to the business by creating a layered approach to security, known as defense in depth. Each network segment has the ability to have its own differentiated security policies that can be specifically tailored to the types of data that is stored on that network. The surface area is also decreased because of the network segmentation, because even if an attacker is inside the network, they cannot move laterally to other areas. Because there are fewer pathways between areas of the network, it limits the attack vectors. Each network segment can have its own fine-grained monitoring, which allows unusual activities to be detected quickly, analyzed, which creates a faster response time. The 3-to-1 method of backing up data prescribes that 3 unique copies of the business's data should be stored on 2 different media, with one of those backups being stored in a location that is off-site of the business's premises. By doing this, it grants the business diversification of backup method. This means that if for any reason one method is compromised, the data is available in a different format or in a different location. By doing this, it grants the business the ability to withstand different forms of compromise. Whether the compromise is malicious or natural disaster, it doesn't matter. This gives the business unique resilience to threat. By having different media forms of backup, gives the business protection against localized threats and events. If one of the methods of backup is stored on the server and it is compromised, it's useless. Having a backup stored on an external hard drive that is not connected to anything would allow the business to have continuity in the event the server is compromised. Having a copy of the data stored offsite of the business gives added security in storing this information in a location not connected to the business by the network. Business continuity is critical for SMBs, whether the event is cyber threats and compromise or whether it is a flood or lightning strike that destroys their servers. Being able to restore their systems and be back up and running as quickly and without complication as possible allows the business to be back earning money. Strong firewall and antivirus or malware software that is regularly updated is critical to having a baseline standard of cyber hygiene. Strong and updated malware or antivirus software gives SMBs a high level of protection and first line of defense by scanning the system for malware. Modern antivirus can provide real-time scanning, giving SMBs live protection from threats. Neutralizing threats as they occur reduces the window of vulnerability that businesses have, thus reducing the vulnerability and attack surface. By keeping malware and viruses at bay, it helps SMBs protect the CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information assets they store. Using strong firewall rules is critical for SMBs to secure their network. Being able to analyze logs and know what traffic is occurring on their network is a critical step to understanding what is happening on their network. Firewalls help prevent intrusion on the network by blocking unauthorized access at their first point of access to the network. If a network is found to be compromised, the firewall can be used to isolate it from the rest of the network. It is my belief that if the business is small and only needs to have users from certain areas access the website, geographical restriction rules should be put in place on the firewall to only allow specifically located users in. Businesses have a tendency to hold on to troves of information that are really unnecessary to conduct their business, and in some circumstances may be in violation of governmental standards, frameworks, or privacy acts. I included this as the last thing that a business should put in place, but there's a strong argument that it should be the first. I think that businesses really need to consider taking a long, hard look at the information that they store about their customers and ask themselves, why are they storing it? What value does it bring them? If the answer to this is none, then it should be destroyed. The less data points that a business has, the lower the potential risk for exposure is. Don't put people at risk for no reason. In summary, I believe that if SMBs want to create a strong baseline for cybersecurity and they implement strong and unique passwords, zero trust policy, network segmentation, backup of data in the 3-2-1 method, strong firewall and antivirus software, and evaluate the PII that is stored, they will then have a baseline of security that puts them in a unique position to their competitors where they are resilient to breach occurring, and in the case of a breach occurring, are able to rebound quickly and with a plan. I now welcome your questions.